MLBBro.com is covering MLB's postseason.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the MLB Bro postseason preview show. Malik Wright here with Dante Miles, and we're going to talk about these championship series that we're in now. Red Sox, Astros, winner will represent the American League. Nationals, Braves, going to represent the National League. Well, let me start off. Dante, what's up? How you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Down here in Atlanta, everybody's excited after the Game 1 victory. Locked in right now. It's 2-2, Game 2. So, it's really exciting down here. Really good time in Atlanta.
Yes, sir. So those Braves, like you said, Game 2, Braves jumped out to a 1-0 series lead yesterday with a walk-off by Austin Riley. On the other side, Boston and Houston tied up at 1. Houston got the first one. Boston came in and they came in and wrecked from the jump yesterday from the first inning and won that one pretty convincingly early. We'll preview those series later, but first we want to talk about what happened in the divisional series to get here right now. So let's start off with the Astro series against the Chicago White Sox. Everybody was hype about Chicago all year. They were in first place in the American League Central, a weak American League Central, some may say. But they were consistently battling to stay healthy all year. They have Rodon, Lance Lynn, Dallas Keuchel. We thought they were going to be one of the strongest teams in the playoffs, but what do you think happened to them?
I think you hit the nail on the head, especially with the injuries toward the end of the year to the pitching staff. I think that really hurt them a lot. And also, I think more than anything, playing in that weak division, you had a lot of times where they were able to coast, even where they were able to bring up players from the minor leagues and keep their lead. But it really, whenever they played other division leaders, you saw that there was a difference. There was a gap. And so there was a lot of hype around this team, especially coming into it with the talk coming from the team themselves. Everyone saying, we're the team to beat. We have World Series aspirations. And it's good to talk like that because, especially having a player like Tim Anderson, who is a superstar, and the other young players that you brought up around them. But at the same time, they still haven't had those playoff battles and, been proven and shown that they really are a team to beat. And so I think in the division series, what you really saw was they just got beat by a better team. I think they got outclassed in every aspect. And, they came in at a high-powered offense and they got outslugged every game. I think they didn't have an extra base hit until we got back to Chicago in Game 3 when Yasmani Grandal hit the 2-run homer and, they had the big outburst. But you saw their bats get silenced and the pitching staff, like I said, Rodon, he gave it all he had. He was really one pitch away from getting out of the jam and possibly, pushing the energy, keeping it going. But, we saw what happened with that, and that team really fell apart. So, for them, I think this was really needed because when you're a young team like that with so much hype, you got to get that reality check. And so I think for the White Sox, we all expected a deeper playoff run. Even though I had them as my World Series pick, I wouldn't have been shocked if they lost in the, the ALCS or something like that. But a division series, not only lost, but really beat down. I think that's something that they needed and something that's going to push them going forward.
Yeah, and like you were talking about, we'll get to Tim Anderson, who he's put his name into one of the best postseason hitters of all time, 16 hits in just his 4 games. But Anderson, Abreu, Jimenez, I believe Robert's in the same conversation. Nobody had an extra base hit on the White Sox. So even with their pitching struggling, for them to have sort of the same type of playoff appearance that they had last season, similar to what they had before Tony La Russa, I guess now you have to keep La Russa for a few years, but what do you think they need? Was it just the pitching that got exposed, or is it with the same voice have got them through this year?
Well, it wasn't just the pitching. I think one thing about the White Sox all season is that they struggle with runners in scoring position. Their situational hitting was bad. And, that's something that La Russa talked about. They preached about it all season long, but it never really came to fruition. You saw it. They left, I think one of the last game, I believe they left 9 men on base. And, they were 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. And that was just consistent throughout the playoffs. And so I think that's something that they really need. I think Cesar Hernandez, who they traded for from the Cleveland Guardians, I don't think he's an answer at second base. So looking for something there, but they definitely need a right fielder. You can't continue to platoon Garcia, Adam Engel. Gavin Sheet showed you, he can be possibly a good DH, left-handed power bat off the bench, but you need a left fielder because another thing the White Sox really struggled in is defensively. They were terrible defensively. Like you saw a lot of balls in that series against Houston that against good defensive teams, those balls are routine outs. But like with the White Sox, it was a struggle. And so I think you got to improve defensively, and you definitely need a right fielder. So I can't just blame the pitching, although them falling apart when they did was just terrible timing. But it was definitely more than that. And Tony, when you're the owner's friend, like it's gonna be tough to get. I don't think the GM could fire him if he wanted to. So with the Russo, I think he didn't do as bad as I expected him to do, but he still has some issues I didn't like, especially with like bullpen management and things like that. So we'll see how it goes next year.
Yeah, especially you talk about that bullpen management. He doesn't want Kimbrel to be he's claimed Kimbrel wasn't comfortable in the 8th inning, and then he throws him out in the 8th inning. I think somebody that's going to be nice and that I think the White Sox should pursue over the offseason is Nick Castellanos from the Reds. He's got that same type of swag that Tim Anderson's. He's a Hispanic TA, man. He's explosive. But I want to move on real quick to the other team that's in the ALCS right now. The Houston Astros, their opponent, the Boston Red Sox. Their wild card game was rocking a few weeks ago when they played against the New York Yankees. Took the lead early. Boston had a chance to cut it early, but Aaron Judge got thrown out at home. Wasn't much coming from anybody not named Giancarlo Stanton. Tampa Bay Rays, on the other hand, they face Boston next. They're out there in 4 games. I'm sorry. You thought that series after winning game run, Rosarena, Franco's all hot. They got the rookies, and you thought it was over, but somehow the Red Sox took it over. Let's just talk about Boston, who people thought was the weakest link out of that team, to now Tampa Bay, first place all season, hold the L. New York Yankees, you guys, I mean, it's just the Yankee expectation. You let the Red Sox beat you, and now they have a go at the World Series.
Yeah, with the Yankees is always disappointing with the amount of talent they have on them, especially for this year when we saw Juan Carlo really, go back to his old self. They hadn't seen that side of him because he had been injured so much. But for him to, be healthy, play in the outfield, and then the series he had in Boston when it looked like they were going to run away with the wild card, or at least, keep that comfortable lead, and then, for them to just collapse like that, I really don't understand. The Aaron Boone situation, they keep saying he's done enough to keep his job. But I think this is one of those teams where, it might be time for a new voice, for somebody different to really lead those guys.
Yeah, and I hate to interrupt, but I think they're having a little bit of a philosophy issue, and it showed a lot during that game. Now, the Yankees, the Bronx Bombers, you're going to get out, you're going to outslug and hit everybody. I just don't understand how you don't have Luke Voit or Gary Sanchez, Gary Sanchez was struggling, but I don't see how Luke Voit and Gary Sanchez don't get any at-bats in that game. Gallo's struggling. I mean, something's got to give. They got to figure some different stuff out. I think Aaron Judge, even though what he did on the last play, the third base coach was fired. Judge has to score on that play. I'm sorry, you hit the screamer off the monster, and I don't blame the third base coach for rounding him around. That's the only guy who's on the team that's going to get a hit, that's going to be able to bring him in. So we're going to see what the Yankees do this offseason. There's a lot of shortstops out. I think Corey Seager would be a good fit for them. Maybe move DJ over, have him playing second base permanently, but they got a lot of stuff to figure out. But just to stay on the Red Sox, I mean, let's talk about Rafael Devers, his name, I mean, Vlad Jr., Tatis, I think his name is up there with those, just how clutch he is at the plate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And especially this postseason battling through injury the way he is. I know. I think I forgot. I think they said it was his forearm or something that he's battling through, but he's definitely been A1 for the Red Sox. And like you said, coming into it, we all thought they were the weakest team. But like it shows you about postseason, it's about when you get hot. And they really have come together at the right time. And Devers has been the primary reason for that, Well, Devers and Kike Hernandez, who's having a historic postseason.
Oh yeah, no, I got Kike's exact stats: 500, 5 home runs, 9 RBIs this postseason. He's killing it. They have Xander Bogaerts. He's been struggling a little bit too. One of their leaders, and then another addition that they got, Kyle Schwarber. He's also been playing fantastic baseball. But now let's move on to the National League real quick. The last high five headline of the DS, the wild card game between the Giants and the Dodgers. If we could, let's just start with what everybody called the check swing, her around the world. If Ray could go ahead and pull it up. 1-run game in the 9th inning. Wilmer Flores up at the plate.
Insane. No way.
One more. I mean, right there, I would say like back. That's not even an attempt.
Robo umps, bro. We need them. This is ridiculous. Like it's getting to the point.
It's tough, and I've never understood. I think what baseball needs to do is one day we'll get the robo umps, but I think we need to make more situations reviewable.
Absolutely.
Especially even in the Little League World Series, they review the last out of the game, but I think check swings, things of that nature, where like there's no specific rule on what is a check swing. If I was taught if your wrist breaks, some people think if the bat head gets over the plate, there's no clear defined thing of what a check swing is. And it's terrible that it was a great baseball game, a great, well-coached, and you don't lose the game off just that one swing, but we hate to see things in like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I agree with you. It's more so, if you can see the head of the bat, if that crosses the plate and you can see the entire head of the bat, but like you said, it's more so subjective, especially on that first base umpire. So I agree. I don't want to make too many things reviewable because I do think that slows down the game too much. But I think things like check swings, especially in the latter innings, stuff like that has to be reviewable because, like you said, that was just a bad call. And one thing about baseball, especially about officiating lately, it's been some really bad calls. Like it seems like the calls as athletes get better, the calls are getting worse. And I think part of that is because so many of the umpires, referees, any official, a lot of them are older. So, when things are moving faster and faster, they're going to make those mistakes. You've always had the error, the human error in the element of, refereeing. But with baseball has been it's bad, bro. Like it's bad from strike zones. I know they give out the report cards. You see some balls, in the other batter's box being called strikes, and like it's a joke. So like, as we continue to use technology, if we're gonna use it, let's make sure we use it in the correct moments. And I think moments like this are a prime example of why we need to, like you said, make these situations reviewable.
Yeah, and so it was Cody Bellinger who ended up getting the game-winning hit for the Dodgers. Surprisingly, I'm sorry to draw a blank on the Giants pitcher who was in the game's name, but he's a flame-throwing right-hander who he was sent down 4 times for his control issues. During his final inning, 13 of his 16 pitches are for changeups. This guy throws 100 miles an hour. So I think the Giants and them, they might have let a little bit of the analytics, a little bit of the game 5 pressure get to him. I mean, you don't really see that from a team like them often. They're one who flawlessly executes Buster Posey, who I think he's the best catcher of the generation. I know Yadi Molina has done what he's done, but it's not many people with the resume that Buster Posey has at the position he plays. And it was just sad to see those analytics get in the game, whereas Dave Roberts on the other side for the Dodgers, he's been, I mean, if there was a Manager of the Year award for the postseason, he's won it from that exact inning that he took Max Scherzer out, which against the Cardinals, everybody thought that was too early. He's just made every decision right throughout. So if you want to just touch on him and his experience, he's been to the playoffs multiple years in a row, finally got his World Series last year. But
yeah,
even up to last year, he was a candidate for a manager who'd be getting laid off.
Yeah, I'm about to say it's this year. Things are definitely start to break in his favor because, like we've seen in the past few postseasons, he's made some mistakes where he has pulled pitchers too early, where he has I think the one World Series they lost, he ran out of pitchers one game. So like we've seen those type of situations with Dave. So now to see him really rolling with this squad, and the Dodgers are loaded, but so to see things actually working has really been good to see. And I think, winning a World Series always, adds a couple years to your job security. And I think with a team like this, he doesn't really have anything to worry about. So, I mean, going forward, though, I will say if they lose this game tonight and they're down 0-2, even though we all know the series doesn't really start until home team loses a game. So, they could very well go back to LA and tie it up 2-2. But things have been going right for Dave. And I think with that roster, it's a lot easier for him to make those decisions. So you got to give a big shout out to the Dodgers front office for putting those pieces out there, because you have a lot of big market teams who don't act like big market teams, but the Dodgers have always been, ahead of the game with that. Like if you make one move, they're going to make two moves. And so that gives Dave the pieces to do what he needs to do. And so this year, like you said, you've seen a lot more of those moves actually pan out. Just when in previous postseasons, we've seen them make some mistakes.
Yeah, and their homegrown talent is just as good as the talent that they bring in.
Yeah.
Taylor making plays. Will Smith, the most home runs for catchers. I thought Will Smith was going to be the one to walk that game off. He's been locked in. It looks like everything he swings at is about to be a home run, just the way he's been locked in, particularly on fastballs. But let's talk about that, these championship series now, and let's get on the National League first. Like you said, last night, the Dodgers and the Braves began their series. Max Fried on the mound, Gossman for the Dodgers. The Braves pulled out the 1-0 win. Let's start off. Second baseman Ozzie Albies reached first base, and the hardest thing to do in baseball is steal a base when they know you're going to steal a base. The manager on that other side, Dave Roberts, he's all too familiar with that, with what he did against the Yankees back during the Red Sox 3-0 comeback. But if we have the highlight of Albies' stolen base.
Throw to second. Stolen base. What a jump. A four-stepper.
Flying.
No chance for Will Smith. And now the Braves have the winning run at second base.
This is right after the Dodgers flew over. Now the next batter up was Austin Riley. Austin Riley, if you don't know, he's been raking. He's a candidate for National League MVP. The players talk about this guy, high quality, and he delivered a walk-off single. Let's show the people that.
Down 3-0. That was game 4. And then they came back and won that series.
They got to stop the chant.
Albies were the big one.
They really got to retire the chant, bro.
2-2 game.
Ain't going away. They made that first two. I can't do it.
Base hit. Here comes Albies.
It's already local.
Braves win game 1.
He said, Ron Washington told him, all I need is a base hit. He said, we got you. But this is just more execution from that Atlanta Braves infield. They're going wild and celebrate. This is a game that the Braves had to win.
Yeah. You had to set the tone, especially after last year when you blew a 3-1 lead. You couldn't come out and blow game 1, because then it would have just killed the energy in the city. So like they needed to do this, and especially in this fashion.
So
that was huge.
We got what is one of the best infields, I think, in baseball. You got Freddie Freeman, Albies, Swanson, Austin Riley. You have Max Fried, who's been one of the hottest pitchers. They got Charlie Morton. He's throwing in game 3. He's maybe besides Max Scherzer, the biggest big game pitcher that's available. Do they have any shot at beating a team who had the most wins for a World Series winner in the Los Angeles Dodgers?
I think they do. I think when you look at the Braves roster, the Braves lineup, they have guys that do a little bit of everything. And it's one of those teams where, like you said, prime example, that 9th inning, you get on base, you steal a base, you get Austin hits them in, Freddie hits the walk-off to get him to the playoffs, and now, he's in the midst of an 0-for-7 slump, but you have other guys step up. And that's been the Braves the entire season. And I think they played in a division where it wasn't as tough as other divisions, but they were able to fly under the radar, especially once the Mets really folded and it was just them and Philly at the end of the year. And, you saw Philly come down here. They took care of business. And, the only thing that really is unfortunate about this is that they don't have Ronnie Acuna. Had they had Acuna in this lineup, I would definitely say I would be much more certain that they could beat the Dodgers. But I do think, especially like I said, if they win tonight and they go up 2-0, I do think that they have what it takes to, dust off what happened last year and really take care of business and go to the World Series.
Yeah, and as you were talking, the Dodgers now have we're live, of course. So the NLCS Game 2 is going on right now. The Dodgers got 2 runners on, 2-2 game in the top of the 7th. Dodgers are making a pitching change, but I think the Braves got a shot too, particularly because of the health of the Dodgers. I think them not having Max Muncy. I think Max Muncy is one of the best players in baseball.
Yeah, definitely.
Them not having him, even though you still have the legend Albert Pujols, you still have McAllister, their rookie or McKenzie, their rookie that can come in and hold it down. You're missing your superstar and your stud to put you over the top. And then also just the way that their bullpen has been worn down these last few days. I wonder, I hope they get the win today. I didn't think Max Scherzer was going to be able to go today. He only went 4 innings. He's got Walker and Urias coming the next 2 days. But the Braves have it set up nice if you can get you got Charlie Morton, your big game guy for Game 3, especially if they can end up pulling this one out to take the 2-0 lead. You get Charlie Morton come and if they can question getting these guys down 3-0, then you got a real legitimate shot.
Yeah, you really Mookie has to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and he's been on fire. I think he might be hitting 400 last time I checked in the playoffs. I know he had a really big game, but he's gonna have to do even more, especially if they go down 0-2, because this Braves team is gonna fight. That's one thing. Like I said, we've seen that all year from this team. It's not gonna be a team where they get punched in the mouth and they lay down. You're gonna see them battle back, and even you saw them band together when Ronnie Acuna went down. And so that team is really, Austin Riley stepped up. Freddie was MVP last year, but, he said he's been up and down this season, And so with Bellinger struggling so much, like I said, it's going to fall back on Mookie. And, I think he's a big game guy. I think he's definitely going to step it up. And so we'll see, bro. But like you said, if they go down 0-2, it sets up nicely for the Braves to take care of business.
Yeah, and we saw, Mookie, he won that Game 5 against the Giants, 4 for 4. As a leadoff guy, you get on base 4 times, you better score. You better get around and score. And a clutch stolen base to get him to second base before getting that game-winning run. Excuse me here, but now I am excited to see what the Dodgers did. Interestingly, he's in the pinch hit now. Dave Roberts decided not to start Justin Turner tonight at third base. He started Chris Taylor. So we'll see if that move pays off and if he can hit a home run while we're talking about him during this. But let's shift over a little bit to the other side, the American League Championship Series. This is interesting. For the 5th straight year, Houston's in the ALCS. They take on the Boston Red Sox, where their former manager, Alex Cora, who was involved with the Astros during their cheating scandal of 2017, both were facing off. Boston's not supposed to be here. This is one of the most hyped series that we've seen, and Houston was rocking on Friday night. Big home run. Let's start it off. Jose Altuve. He had an error earlier in the game that allowed a few runs to score. And then he came up big with this huge 2-run home run, and it just ignited Houston's crowd.
High fly ball to left. Damage done. Tie game.
The crosser boxes, man.
Yeah. That's a cheat code, bro. Like 315.
Man, it's a different vibe in H-Town, man. They just the city, the culture. You got Bumby, all that H-Town school walked up, man. Those people are going wild. It's cool to see how elite they are. Dusty Baker has those guys on a roll. And, despite what we saw in 17, everything that they went through, they continually hit, especially Jose Altuve.
Yeah, bro, 5 straight in ALCS. Cheating aside, bro, they play good baseball. Like it gets to a point that like no matter what happened during that series and during that season, you have to tip your cap to them, especially because when we all know, there are multiple teams doing things to steal signs, and stealing signs is nothing new in baseball. But the fact that they took it to the levels that they did with the video technology, was just a lot. But at the same time, like I said, you have to tip your cap to this team because a lot of teams would have folded. A lot of teams would have really, took the criticism, especially a guy like Jose Altuve. We've seen his average dip, but he still hits for power. Carlos Correa is one of the most clutch hitters in the game. Michael Brantley, professional hitter, as they say, what I'm saying, year in, year out, he's a guy who they brought in, most of that team is homegrown. They talked about how Correa and Altuve have played over 60 playoff games together.
I hate to interrupt you. I don't know if we have this. They said we have a live feed. It was bases loaded out there in Atlanta. Base hit to center field center fielder comes to field it. Ball goes under his glove. So 2 runs to score. And they just subbed in. It's Heredia in center field. He just came in during a double switch.
That's bad, bro. That's bad.
They play the highlight. It was Chris Taylor up the plate, bases loaded in the 7th. Knocks one in the center. He looked like he had a beat to catch it. Pulled up a little slow and just misplays it. I mean, just tough to see. But I mean, you're minus Acuna in the outfield. You're minus Ozuna. It's tough to just keep filtering in all these players. And then Jock Peterson's not a true center fielder, and neither is Duvall. So sort of a real tough break for the Braves right there. We're gonna stay live and
a lot of times, it's a battle of who's gonna be the healthiest at the end of the season. And like you said, with guys going down like that, you don't have many pieces to put out there in the outfield. And so like that's tough. Let's see if we can see it here. Oh no! Oh,
that's a little league play you got to make right there.
That's ugly. You got to stop that. You got to keep that ball in front of you. There's no way in a game like this you can't try to make that type of play. Like
we've seen something
fresh off the bench, bro.
Fresh, but we've seen a lot of something. I think we've seen is a little bit of human element. People are nervous. People are, it's the playoffs and these fans are loud. I think a perfect example was what Chris Taylor did yesterday when he's rounding bases. It's a base hit to the outfield. He's rounding second, looking like he's gonna head in straight for third, and he ends up stopping short and getting thrown out. When Riley even said, "Man, this dude's gonna be safe if he keeps going." He said I thought he was gonna keep going. He looked up and is glad he didn't. Looks like Pollock's got a 1-1 count. 17 for 50, 2 home runs, career with the bases loaded. TV's a little ahead of the stream here.
If you Luke Jackson, that's tough.
Yeah, man. You got to do damage control now, of course, because it's just a 2-run game.
Yeah. And like you said, they fight, but man, that's tough. 2 outs. That's something you definitely don't want to see.
And this Braves team, as he gets a strike right there. This is a Braves team that their bullpen has a few question marks in it.
Yeah.
Struggled a little bit during the regular season. They've got a lot of good lefties, but even Will Smith, their closer, struggled. Tyler Matzik, who me and a few years ago, back when I was working with independent league baseball, Tyler Matzik was a pitcher on our team, came in, and he was picked up by the Atlanta Braves during their 2019 playoff runs. This guy, we picked him up basically off the streets. Lefty, throws fire. I remember seeing him strike out about 7 batters in 2 innings. He got a drop third strike, but he was just K'ing everybody up. So I'm really glad to see him out there and competing. Looks like the Braves just got out of the inning with the strikeout. But let's get back to the ALDS or ALCS. And like you mentioned, another guy, Carlos Correa, big time. He had one of the best home run celebration bat flips of the year to take the lead and took the top off of the Astrodome during Game 1. So let's show the people that.
Go back to the Astro bomb.
This ball is up and out.
No, his playoff celebrations are like A1. Like over the years, he has some of the best celebrations we've seen in the playoffs.
Waiting for that pitch the entire bat. You saw some great pitches on the
It's like
outside
it was
part of
him
the plate
too
that he didn't
earlier
even
in the
offer
night.
because they were paint.
This is I was listening to this game on the radio headed home, man. I could feel they didn't say he was flipping his bat like that when he game timed it off. That would have been crazy, but
Yeah,
you could just tell that the Astrodome, or I keep calling it the Astro Minute Maid.
yeah. And a friend of mine who he told me like one of the things why it gets so loud in there, he was like, it's because the actual field sits, below street level. So he's like, it's kind of like it has that pit feel. And so, like you said, it exploded when he hit that home run. And I'm like, that's gonna be a tough team. That's a tough place to win. It's gonna be a tough team to beat.
Yes, sir, it is. But Boston was, and let me go back to those Astros. Lance McCullers, their ace pitcher, is out for the series. He's got a little bit of forearm tightness. Other pitcher, Valdez, pitched yesterday. He could barely make it out the first inning. They're saying he has injuries, so Houston a little depleted in the starting rotation. But let's talk about that game too. And in that one, Boston got them with not one, but 2 grand slams. So let's show them that because they ended this one early, put their foot down early in H-Town.
Hits it in the air to right. Back
JD Martinez, the 40th opposite field home run in the last few years. That's a professional hitter right there.
I was just going to say, JD's gonna hit till he's 50. Right.
Game 2.
We'll see where he ends up next year. He's a free agent to be, but this is their first inning grand slam to take them off the lead. We have the second grand slam, I believe, came from Rafael Devers. We'll show you guys that here in a second, but it's not many times you get to see 2 grand slams in a game, let alone in a playoff game. And in baseball, you always seeing something different.
Yeah, back-to-back innings at that.
That is hit down the line. It is gone for a grand slam.
That was the one that put the Kansas straw on the Campbell's back. Houston fought for the rest of the day, but they ultimately fell out short. Devers, he's been one of the clutchest hitters in all of baseball since a few years ago. He took a home run. He hit a bomb off a 103-mile pitch by Aroldis Chapman. So he's been ready for moments like this.
No, yeah, bro, you hit the nail on the head. Like Boston, they reloaded well after they had a few down years, and Devers has definitely been one of those guys. And so to see that, I think you had to answer back like that. Because with a team like Houston, we saw it with the White Sox. Well, I think that rain delay also hurt the White Sox because you need that momentum to actually keep them down, because this is a team that they can score fast, they can score often. And so for you to jump out like that with 2 grand slams back to back, that's something that you really have to do. And I think JD Martinez said it. He said, we're going to have to score a lot of runs. We know that. And so, in game 2, they came out, like you said, they put their foot on the gas and they kept it there. And so we'll see what happens going back to Boston. I think this is one of those series where if Houston isn't able to get a game in Boston, it could get ugly, because that crowd has really been pushing that team. They play really well at home during the postseason.
Yeah, and that's one of the key parts of this series is the fact that Boston is so electric. But on the other side, I feel like if it's a team that can stem the tide during all that, it's the Houston Astros. And they're already going to be – those Boston guys, they're going to give them fits. They're going to hate and boo and probably chunk a few beers at them. It's different in there in Boston, but those guys are used to it. And it reminded me a lot of the way when Devers hit that home run in Fenway. Bogarts hit the home run against the Yankees. That reminded me a lot of how Minute Maid was when Altuve went deep the other day. I think it's going 7-2. I don't know how Houston is going to figure out their starting pitching rotation. I don't know what tricks Dusty Baker's going to have, but I think he's going to come with some. So speaking of that, who do you think is going to take the American League pennant?
Actually, I think the Boston Red Sox are.
Okay.
I think I know I do the Dusty is gonna do his damnedest, and he has been able to make it work. But when you lose your ace like that, and then your number 2 goes down, it's gonna be tough because they can score a lot of runs, but at the same time, you're gonna have to piece together your pitching for the next 5 games, and that's gonna be difficult in the playoffs. So, like when you lose your 2 best arms, I think that's gonna be too much to overcome. So I got Boston going to the World Series.
Yeah, and I want to lean with you. I think I want to see us get the Houston versus Dodger matchup, but like you said, it's a lot of injuries, and even something else that is you didn't say is their bullpen is going to get exposed. They didn't want Zach Greinke or Jake Odorizzi to get the ball. Now, one of those two most likely got to take the ball in Game 4. Tomorrow, the Red Sox have Eduardo Rodriguez on the mound. Houston throws Jose Urquidia, who he himself has been up and down, struggling this entire season. So,
yeah, no, I agree, bro. It's going to be interesting to see. But if anybody can do it, Dusty can do it, man. We know. I think we've talked about all year about all of his accomplishments, and now like the World Series would be the icing on the cake. So, I got Boston winning it, but we'll see how it goes. It's going to be interesting to see how they try to make this work.
My opinion might change a little bit after Game 3, but I think somehow the Astros gonna pull it off. I can't tell you how they're gonna do it, but I think
okay. We're gonna see.
They'll figure out a way. Let's move on to the National League side of it. Braves versus Dodgers. Right now, bottom 7, tying man's at the plate. Somebody runners on first. Dansby Swanson's up to bat against Blake Trinan. This series, I guess I'll get to go first and shoot it last time. I think I'm gonna roll with the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers get this one done as double play gets them out of the inning real quick. I think the Dodgers are going to get this one done. I can't see it going 7. I think the other series we could see it going 7. I think this one goes about 6. But what about you?
Yeah, like I said, I agree. I think winning today would have been huge for the Braves. But if the Dodgers come out of Atlanta with the split, that's all they needed. And so I think it'll end up being Dodgers in 6.
Yeah, as do I. And where that series will kick off again Tuesday. Tomorrow we'll see Boston, and then we'll get both games on Tuesday. If so, we'll be here next weekend talking about Game 6s and Game 7. But I want to appreciate you guys for joining us here in our first MLB Bro postseason preview show. Wish we could have got one earlier. We're definitely going to have one for the World Series to come out. But just before you go, tell me one thing that you're most looking forward to during these championship series.
Really, for the ALCS, seeing if Dusty can overcome all of this, because like I said, I do want to see him get a World Series before he bows out. A lot of us felt like Dusty was just brought in, to just combat all of the negativity that was going to go on, but he's really showing I'm here to win. And so I want to see what Dusty does. And as far as the NLCS, I want to see if the Dodgers can go back to back. That would be dope to see, especially because how people feel about the same way they talk about the Lakers bubble championship, how they feel about these shortened season rings. So for them to finally get over the hump, if they can come back and double back, I think that would be dope for Mookie and the Dodgers.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that. Matt, I like Max Scherzer. He's one of my favorite pitchers of this generation. I can't stand the Dodgers, but I'm hoping that he can get a ring this season. Him and Mookie can get his third, and that'll put them in some all-time category. It's going to put Scherzer up there with some of the greats.
Oh, yeah.
On the American League side, I want to see if the two villains, Dusty called them Batman and Batman, but they're the deadliest postseason combination in the history. I mean, Clay and Steph Curry, we could call them Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa. Can they lead the Astros into the World Series and get their second ring? If they can do that, they're climbing up the list of postseason home runs all time. It's going to suck if they're not together next year. I don't know if Houston's going to be able to afford what the money that Carlos Correa is making, because I think he's going to get $300 million, and
easy.
Any team should blank check him. But if this is their last ride, I want to see if they can go out in style.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's gonna be interesting to see. But like I said, over 60 playoff games together, came up together in that Houston farm system, and Houston, along with the Cardinals, really has set the blueprint for how teams are built these days. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they finish this off.
It will be. But again, I want to thank you guys for joining our first ever live edition of the MLB Bro Show postseason show. We'll have this full show saved and out on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So again, thank you guys for joining us, and you guys have a good night.
MLBBro.com is covering MLB's postseason.